Goa, a name by itself, a brand and a luxury. Every year, this tiny little state of India attracts millions of people from the world over. Old, young, middle age, or people from any age group fantasize to visit and experience Goa at least once in their lifetime. When we think of Goa, we think about the sandy beaches, rocky harbors, a happening nightlife, lush green forest, and many more to offer. The more you ask of it, Goa has way much to offer you than that. Goa also boasts of a rich and a vibrant history. But few of us might know that Goa celebrates its Liberation Day or its Independence Day on the 19th of December every year. Shocking, but true. In the year 1961, roughly 60 years back, and 14 years after the independence of India, Goa was liberated from 450 years of Portuguese colonial rule by India and the mighty Indian Army. Today, let's take back the pages of history and take a learning out of it and see what are the events that happened which caused a bloody takeover of Goa.
Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Shantanu and I welcome you to my channel, The Indic Horizon, where we discuss in details about the events that led to the making of modern India as we know it today. Without much of an ado, let's get started.
In order to understand the turn of events, let's look back at this place's history. Goa has been an important part of Indian history right from the Mahabharata times when it was known as the Gomantak Kingdom. After that, it changed many hands, right from the Mauryas, Rashtrakutas, Rajputs, Kadambas, and then came the Sultanate rule. As the European gained power and technology, the Portuguese and the Spaniards were the first to sail the high seas, and in 1498, Vasco da Gama landed to India in the port of Calicut, which today is in the state of Kerala. The Portuguese were enthralled by the riches, mineral and wealth of India. One historical instance note that when Vasco da Gama returned for the second time to India in 1502 with a bigger fleet, he purchased goods including precious stones, minerals, spices, cloth and many more units, which at that point of time had 60 times of its value in the European market. Then in 1505, Francisco de Almeida was appointed as the Viceroy of Indian territories of Portugal. He started setting up 4 major forts in India, namely Anjidiv, Cananore, Cochin and Quillan. Thereafter arrived the major mind of Portuguese to control India, Alfonso de Albuquerque. In 1507, he started fortification of almost all the Portuguese territories and fort areas. Gradually, the Portuguese eyed Goa as one of its major and developed hub. After a battle with Adil Shah Sultans of Bijapur and after 2 long conquests, Panjim and gradually Goa came under Portuguese rule in 1510 by the late November and early December. The Portuguese rule was however challenged several times by the local rulers like the Gujarat Sultanate, the Zamorin of Calicut and eventually the Marathas. The Portuguese were so possessive of Goa that in the year 1526 the King of Portugal, John III, gradually offered the status of Lisbon, the same status of Lisbon rather, to Goa as it holds today. There used to be a saying in Portugal that the one who has seen Goa need not see Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal. In the year 1530, the governor of the then Portuguese India, Nuno da Cunha, transferred their capital from Cochin to Goa, which remained so till 1961. Goa was thereafter developed by the Portuguese as a major hub for their trade, economics and moreover the power center of the Portuguese controlled territories all across South and Southeast Asia. The Goan struggle for independence drew inspiration from the Indian struggle of independence, which was going simultaneously in British India. In the year 1915, a Goan by the name of Luís de Menezes Bragança formed a Portuguese language daily newspaper, O Heraldo, which was critical of the Portuguese colonial rule in India and other territories of Portugal across the world. Apart from this, in 1928, the major event of Goan independence took place when Tristão da Bragança Cunha, the founder of the Goan National Congress, allied itself to the Indian National Congress in its Calcutta session in 1928. Mr. Cunha is also reportedly said to have met Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose to take directions to lead the movement for independence. A major event also took place in the year 1946 when Ram Manohar Lohia, a Gandhian by philosophy, organized a call for independence and rallied a mass of people along with his friend Julio Menendez in Mormugao. Mr. Lohia was gradually arrested by the colonial police and escorted out of Goa, while Mr. Menendez was imprisoned and sent to Portugal. In the month of October to November, peaceful satyagraha was held. Local protesters peacefully protested across the state. However, the police cracked down brutally on them, arresting many, deporting many to prisons across the world. Many were sent to Africa, many were sent to Lisbon, and some were imprisoned in India itself. Apart from the movement going on in the homeland of Goa, there were uprisings and demand for greater autonomy and independence in Portugal itself. Indian nationalists like Purushottam Kakodkar and Uday Bhemre tried tabling and gained support for a resolution of greater autonomy and power for Portuguese Indian territories in the month of July 1946. However, the resolution was completely turned down and came out to be a complete failure. Soon after, protests continued to be a part of routine schedule. However, the government of the Portuguese Indian colonies brutally cracked down on any call out for independence. Newspapers were banned, heavy fines were imposed on people who were called people who rallied for independence, no public meetings were allowed, and the government had a complete control over the press freedom. Apart from the peaceful protests which were in progress, several revolutionary groups also sprung into action. Two such important groups that found mention are the Azad Gomantak Dal, which was formed by a revolutionary faction led by Dattatreya Deshpande and Narayan Hari Nair. Apart from this, the Goa Liberation Army was formed by Shivaji Rao Desai, an Indian army officer in 1950s, who attempted to utilize revolutionary tactics and direct action strategies to challenge the Portuguese colonialism. The colonies in India for Portugal were facing the heavy brunt of the struggle of independence. Situations were gradually getting intense and versifying.
वहाँ भी हमारी नीति वही शांति की है, लेकिन एक बात मैं आपसे कहा चाहता हूँ कि गोवा एक इम्तिहान हमारा, अगर आप चाहें।
British India, after gaining independence in August 1947, was initially engaged in the refugee crisis out of partition, the Indo-Pak War, and the assimilation of princely states to Indian Union. In January 1948, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru met the Portuguese consul and raised the issue of Goa's integration to the Indian Union. The Portuguese, who valued their strategic Indian colonial outpost, were unwilling to negotiate. In January 1953, the Indian delegation in Portugal sought to negotiate with Portugal on the issue of its territory in India. The Indian government offered a direct transfer. However, the Portuguese refused, and the diplomatic relation between the two countries suffered. On 11 June 1953, the Indian delegation in Lisbon was closed and diplomatic ties were formally severed. In July 1953, Prime Minister Nehru stated that the Indian government's position involved French and Portuguese colonies in India integrating to the Union, despite Mr. Nehru clearly stating India's policy in relation to colonial outposts. Portugal and France refused to hand over their colonies. Subsequently, India launched a campaign through the UN to attempt to persuade the Portuguese to leave India peacefully. India was now running out of patience gradually. In 1961, India proclaimed that Goa should join India either with full peace or with full use of force. In August 1961, India began military preparations. Again, in the same year, the Portuguese fired at an Indian fishing boat, killing one fisherman. This broke out the last peaceful option and a military action was ordered immediately. The Indian military got ready for the offensive by the 11th of December 1961. On the 12th of December, all the roads connecting Goa and India were blocked to be used by military resources only. The 17th Infantry Division and the attached troop of the Indian Army marched into Goa. The main charge was on Panaji and the objective was to capture as much of area leading to Panaji. This included the major town of Ponda. The main charge was led by the 50th Para Brigade Group under the command forces like airports, roads, bridges, and all the other factions to be used by the Indian Army for advancement. However, they failed. The bridges and the other mode of transportation, roads or rails, were protected and being guarded by the Azad Gomantak Dal and the Goa Liberation Front. By this time, the Portuguese had no option but to just surrender. In the evening of 18th December 1961, the Indian forces were almost halfway to Panaji. The Portuguese tried putting up some defense by using their artillery. However, the same was made completely useless by the continuous air sorties of the Indian Air Force missile aircrafts. The Portuguese were in no position to attack but only to defend and rescue themselves. At 8:30 p.m. on the 19th of December 1961, the Governor General of Portuguese India and of Goa, Governor General Manuel Antonio Vassallo e Silva, took stock of the numerical superiority of the Indian troops and gradually signed an instrument of surrender, bringing an end to the 451 years of Portuguese rule in Goa. A total of 4,668 personnel were taken as prisoner of war by India, which included military and civilian personnel. These people were repatriated to Portugal later on in the year 1962. Upon the surrender of Portuguese Governor General, Goa, Daman and Diu were declared as federally administered Union Territories of India, placed under the President, and Major General K.P. Kandat as appointed to be the military governor. The war that lasted 2 days, in total 36 hours to be precise, cost 22 Indian and 30 Portuguese lives. International reaction was quite obvious to all this action. Few countries supported India's action while few countries condemned. The Soviet Union, the United Arab Emirates, Ceylon, which African states supported India's move and endorsed it as a procedure of decolonization. However, Western powers like the United States, the UK, Netherlands, Brazil, and lot others, definitely including Pakistan, condemned the attack by India on Goa. Good or not, India by now has achieved what it wanted in Goa. Meanwhile, France also completed its handing over of its colonial possessions in India. The last colony of Pondicherry was handed over to India by France in the year 1962. Previous to this, Nagar, which today falls in West Bengal, became a part of India in 1954, the 2nd of October. The same applies to Mahe, Yanam and Karaikal. With this, India completed what it aimed to. Today, Goa is a shining representation of India's great leap into progress. The smallest state of India has been setting remarkable examples in various sectors. It has the highest per capita GDP among all the other states in India. In fact, 2.5 times the GDP of the country as a whole, which means an average Goanese earns much more when compared to any other states of India and the average of India as a whole. The 11th Finance Commission named Goa as the best placed states in terms of infrastructure, and India's National Commission on Population rated it to be offering the best quality of life in India based on many indicators. The state is also the third highest in terms of Human Development Index. Goa is visited by millions of tourists every year for its active nightlife, beaches, places of worship, and the world heritage architecture. Overall, Goa is the best compact story of the rapid development while keeping in touch with heritage, culture, freedom, and coexistence. On the 18th of December 2020, the President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind, announced an year-long celebration of the 60 years of liberation of Goa, which concludes on 19 December 2021. President, the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, members of the Goan Cabinet and the Central Cabinet celebrated the 60 years of Goa's liberation with pride and pomp and show. With this, we conclude the second episode of our Vijay series. Do let us know in the comment section what is the next story you want to know of. I wish you a happy Christmas and a wonderful time ahead. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.